Hello, hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back to Oh to Be a Woman. So let's just dive right in. Today we're going to be talking about the global UN goal number 5, which is gender equality. Hey guys, welcome back to Oh to Be a Woman, hosted by yours truly, Brianna Sebastian. Today joining me is one of my closest friends, Shamika.
Hi guys.
And she's just going to be here to help me navigate the tough conversations that we're going to be having today. Like I stated in the intro, we're going to be talking about the UN Global Goal number 5, which is gender equality. And we're also going to be talking about gender inequality, which is kind of the flip side to that. So before we jump right into the topic, do you just want to briefly give yourself a little bit more of an introduction as to who you are and whatnot?
Okay, hi, I'm Shamika. I'm a college student here in the Tampa Bay area. I go to USF, which is a PWI, and I am a business major student.
Cool. So the reason I specifically asked Shamika to come and talk to me today and talk with us was because she does attend, like she said, a PWI as a Black woman. So given that she does have experiences and her own opinions with gender equality, especially as a Black woman, so I'm just really interested to kind of hear your opinions and what you have to say. Okay, so the first question I want to ask you is, what do you personally think gender equality is? Like, in your own words, if you can summarize it, what is that to you?
I think gender equality is getting the same roles and like opportunities regardless of your gender, like equal pay, being a CEO, being a manager, like stuff like nurses, any type of responsibility or career.
Like, regardless on like gender, whether you're a man or woman, equal opportunity, basically. Okay, yeah, that's kind of how I would explain it. Just like having the freedom and like the right to have everything that a man does.
Yes.
Like women being equally having equal
rights. Period.
Yeah. Being equal. So with that being said, now that we kind of know like what gender equality is, can you think of any instances where you faced gender inequality like in your own life, like whether it was in the workplace or whether it was like in school or something like that? Like, have you ever had those experiences?
I would say it would have to be in school, and I would say more specifically the dress code. So I would be wearing, something completely regular. Like I would be wearing a tank top versus a man wearing a tank top, and I would get dress coded as opposed to the man. And that happened both in work and school.
So like, do you feel like that's simply because you're a woman, or like, obviously I don't necessarily think it was right, but do you think that because you're in the workplace or school place that that's considered okay?
I don't think it's considered okay, and I do think it was because I'm a woman. I do think that some measures need to be taken because I'm a woman, but that simply right there is just because I'm
like, what do you mean? Are you saying in terms of like having, like it being considered inappropriate as a woman wearing a tank top versus a man? Okay. Honestly, yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the time we have these discussions where what is appropriate for a man and a woman to wear, and a lot of the time you see men walking around shirtless or like not having to be concealed as much, but women are expected to cover up and hide their body more than men. And I do think that that is a form of like gender equality, because men and women should have a form of equalness when it comes to dress codes and like what they have to wear. I think everyone should kind of wear similar things.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about some gender inequalities that we've both personally faced, that you've faced, I kind of just want to talk about some examples of gender equality and kind of like what that looks like. So one big example that I can kind of think of is just equality within the home. And when I mean home, I mean within like a 2-parent household, kind of where you see in both a male and a female relationship, and just kind of like what that looks like. So to you, what is gender equality within the home?
Within the home, I would say simple tasks such as taking out the trash, doing dishes, cooking, and stuff. Like me personally, I have a brother, so whenever stuff like taking out the trash happens, he will take it out and he will bring the trash cans up. But I am seen washing the dishes more, and like he'll be seen cooking more as well. Cooking is kind of like iffy, but it's definitely like him or like my mother most of the time.
So, because your brother is kind of helping with, cleaning and keeping up with the house and cooking, do you feel like that is gender equality or gender inequality?
I would say it's gender equality only in my home. I know that in other homes, like the men, like don't like, or like I would say like most of the men, they don't do stuff such as the cooking and the cleaning.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like your brother kind of picking up the slack in areas like cleaning up and cooking kind of really it shows that there is no gender biases. Like, there's no stereotypes where women, cook and clean and men are the breadwinners. Like, clearly your brother helping out in all aspects is just kind of an example of the equality that's within your family.
Yes.
Another example that I could kind of think of, we mentioned it in the opposite, but I'm talking now about equal pay. And how that's now a thing, and not everywhere, but I know there's a lot of laws that are in place that are kind of protecting women's rights in that sense, where they do get paid equal to the man on the dollar. So yeah, that's just another example. How do you feel about that?
I'm finally happy that we're getting the recognition that we deserve. I know that we're getting like less than pennies on like the dollar or whatever that the men are making. We're making like less than that. So if these policies are working, then I'm all for it, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. Something else that I've kind of heard a lot in discussion when talking about women and men is just kind of like the belief of women when it comes to their health issues.
Yeah.
In the medical field and like within like the health. I think it's really interesting to think about how doctors typically don't take women as seriously when they express that they are in pain. When it comes to men, especially during birth, and especially Black women. So Black women are typically like not trusted when they are trying to vocalize what kind of pain they're in. They're often like kind of like pushed to the side, and so I think it's really interesting to kind of dissect how men are perceived to doctors and how their opinions and how their feeling is kind of taken more in consideration and more serious than women. So moving on from that, I want to kind of bring up this concept. I don't know if you ever heard of it before, but it's called the broken rung method or theory. And basically it just kind of refers to the barrier that women face early on within their careers. Basically it's entry-level women are promoted to the manager level much later in their careers than men are. So basically saying that, with that being said, women miss out on those opportunities to gain like leadership opportunities or just to better themselves in those roles, which then kind of affects how they are promoted on the senior level and further on into their careers. Do you feel like this is something that you face, or do you see this a lot in your own personal life? Like, what is your opinion on this?
So my opinion on it is I definitely think that it's true. I have, like in the past, I have had more male managers than female, especially being a business major myself. I have done studies on this and read research, and men definitely dominate more in the business field, such as like even if it's CEO, just in general, like
Right.
males just dominate women in the business field.
So do you see that in your day-to-day life being a student? Do you see a lot more male professors or just more men playing in higher roles in your life?
I could honestly say I've seen a fair equal balance. I will say I have seen I have had more female teachers.
Really? So
Yes.
you would think in the educational
Field
realm,
yes.
yeah.
The educational field there's
is
definitely more women, and in the business field there's definitely more men.
I think that's super interesting because typically like women are seen to be more nurturing, and so educators are just that, they're there to educate and teach and nurture those students and develop them. So I think it's kind of interesting that in those stereotypical roles that women typically have, it's how it's playing out in our field, and like for me especially, and as well for you, like you just said. So I think it's interesting that like in the workplace your managers tend to be males, but when you are learning and you're in the educational fields, it's typically women. So
yeah, that just made me think, like, honestly, I would like to think about that too, because if women are made to be more creative and stuff, then I think we should honestly dominate the business realm too, because creativity is what runs businesses, not just regular.
Yeah, so I think that's like something really interesting to think about. So now that we've kind of talked about the equalities, I want to just further hash on the inequalities and the experiences that women face, especially like within the Tampa Bay area. So a huge thing that I just also want to preface is that gender inequality and gender equality is not only a woman's issue, it should be a global issue between all genders, between everyone. Not being fair to a specific demographic is not right by any means. So it's just important that we
establish it.
Yeah, exactly. Also, another thing that I just remember you telling me in the past is that while you have been in the workplace or at school or like in any on any kind of like platform, you've experienced men try to diminish your accomplishments or just things that you've kind of been able to do and just make you seem small. Do you think that has to do with, you know, gender inequality or just like men putting themselves on a different hierarchy than women?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like I would say an idea versus like my male counterpart, and his idea would like be taken more seriously, or like if I said it, they wouldn't listen, you know, but he says it immediately after and they would take it serious. Like things like that, I just think it's very.
Hey guys, welcome back to Oh to Be a Woman, hosted by yours truly, Brianna Sebastian. So this is our second part of the series where we're discussing gender equality. And today my host is Craig Sebastian. Say what's up.
Hey everybody.
So I'm excited to have you on our podcast today, just because I'm excited to hear your opinion on a lot of the conversations that we're going to be having today, given your experiences and your personal, in your work and home life. So yeah, we're just excited for you to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
I just want to ask a question. What is gender equality to you? What does it mean to you?
Gender equality to me means equal for everybody across the board, men and women, old and young, just equal everything.
And when you mean equal, what do you mean? Like,
I don't think anyone should be benefiting more than another person because they're a man or a woman.
Yeah, awesome. I do agree with that. Have you ever experienced any gender inequality where the things that you were referring to being equal weren't equal?
Not my professional life. I can't say I have experienced that.
So where have you worked in the past?
I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I worked for the Department of Correction in the state of Connecticut for 20 years. And so basically in my profession, throughout my profession, the men and the women were paid basically the same accordingly. But it kind of went by seniority, so.
Right.
You know, but as far as the base pay, everybody was paid the same.
Interesting. And do you feel like in the people of those higher positions in those jobs, because you said you did correction, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so in the workplace of corrections, were there equal amount of men and women in those high leadership positions, or did you see maybe one gender more?
It's definitely a male-dominated environment, and so you're going to have a lot more men in higher positions because it's just more men in the field by itself. So
Gotcha.
In the positions of authority, supervisor positions, leadership positions was dominated by men, simply for the fact that there was more men than women that worked for the department.
Awesome. And now, since that is I assume corrections is a very physical job. So with that being said, do you think the reason why the ratio between men and women were off was because of the physicality of the job, or was it maybe because women may not have simply been applying for that position, or what do you think?
I think there's a stigma when it comes to being in law enforcement, and I think that women don't necessarily know that women can work in those environments. And so that's what I just think they just don't know, in my opinion.
Okay, awesome. So to kind of backtrack a little bit about leadership roles, I was reading a peer review article and it references about a study that they had concluded which gender equality within the Florida 2- and 4-year education systems, and within those education systems they discussed characteristics in which they seen between men and women. For example, men were primarily described to be more controlling, assertive, aggressive, and more ambitious than women. Do you feel as if those characteristics are true, or do you think there may be more bias towards men?
No, I think that's just the natural instinct of a man. I just think men are more aggressive. Men, I think, are more comfortable leading in that type of role, leadership role. And I just think through the course of time, it's always been that way.
Awesome. So now I'd like to shift gears. We kind of talked about what it's like to be or to experience gender inequality / equality within the workplace. I kind of want to... Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, I kind of want to just talk about what gender equality does for both women and men and their mental health. So before I even say my opinion, do you have any opinions on what having gender equality means to women and how that might affect their mental health in a positive or a negative way?
I can see it having an impact on people, especially women, in a negative way if there is an imbalance of the gender equality. If two people are doing the same work, or two people have the same status, but one person is getting more because he's a male, so to speak, and the other person is doing the same, if not more, then that's definitely going to have an effect on someone's mental health, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. According to the patterns of gender equality at workplaces and psychological distress, according to that peer review article, it does say that women who have gender equality within their workplace typically perform better and they have higher level of happiness. It's recorded. And so I think that's really interesting that, given the same opportunities and experiences as men, how it equates to positive results. So I think that's a very interesting topic to kind of discuss.
For sure.
So another form of gender equality would be to eliminate violence against women and girls. A lot of the time we hear about how women may report an instance of being assaulted, whether it's sexually or whether it's just physically assaulted, whether it's by men or it's by women. They are being reported, and a lot of the time nothing is being done. So to combat this issue, gender equality and the global UN really focuses on eliminating that. I just want to kind of gather your thoughts on what you think we can do to kind of help end violence against women and girls.
I think it's important to create a safe space for women and girls to be able to report some of these things that may be happening to them and not feel guilt or shame about it. For so many years, this has gone on, and women won't speak of it or report it for years and years and years, and then finally they may hear someone else's story of the same abuse and neglect that someone else experienced, and then they might have the courage to step forward. So I just think if we actually had safe spaces for them to kind of reach out to and not feel ashamed about it, would be something that would be beneficial for them.
Yeah, I think it's such a great thing to kind of highlight. It's so important for us to have these environments and these safe spaces for people just to kind of voice their opinions and express their past experiences and what they've been through. So I also agree. So with that being said, I just kind of want to reiterate how gender equality is not only an issue that only women are going through or that only women are advocating for, but it's an issue that we all need to be brought awareness to. I just want to say thank you, Craig, for coming out and speaking on this podcast and kind of giving your opinions and your thoughts especially as a male, it's super important that we have representation in all forms, especially when talking about gender equality, because this is not just an issue for women. This is an issue that we all need to acknowledge, both men and women. And so, yeah, I just applaud you, and I really appreciate you stepping on the podcast and giving your opinions.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Catch us later on our next episode.